Hello and welcome to Ketrick Builds. We're back with our second episode of Satisfactory, and we are going to be diving into getting a starting factory set up. There's been a bunch of updates to Update 4 since I recorded the previous video about a day ago. There's actually been a number of hotfixes, and so you'll notice that the lighting is much improved. No more obnoxious light blooms, and there's been a lot of other bug fixes and such. So last time we left off wanting to make sure that we were going to pick up this obstacle clearing so we could get access to solid biofuel and a chainsaw. And so we've got our milestone set up there, and really the one thing we need that we don't have is screws. And so we're going to run over here. I believe this is the constructor that's making iron rods, and so we're going to just toss another constructor down right in front of this one so that we can get access to screws going here really quick. And we're going to let this kind of start working on it while we begin setting up for our factory. So with screw automation out of the way, what we want to do now is update this semi-automatic process for creating concrete into something completely automated. And so that means we're going to go up here and put a miner down on top of this hill, and then set up a couple of constructors and some storage to be able to store that concrete. So rather than running all the way up there and realizing I don't have the necessary components, we're going to go ahead and open up the build menu here. And one of the cool features with Satisfactory is I can push this little plus button and add that to my to-do list. So I can say that I'm going to need to build a miner, and I want to build 2 constructors to create concrete from the materials that I'm bringing out of that miner. And that's going to add all the necessary base materials to this list so that when I close out of this, I can not only see what I want to build, but what materials I might need to get out of storage. Now in this case, I already have all the materials, which is a good thing. And so we're going to go ahead and head on up here and get an automated concrete facility going, as we're going to need a lot of concrete to build all the foundations necessary to get our factory started back here. And then once this is built, I'll be able to put a conveyor belt on there, and we're going to bring it out to the edge of this cliff like so. And then I'm going to bring it down here, I think somewhere around here. I got to find an appropriate place to set it. But I'm going to be able to bring that limestone all the way down to that plateau, and we'll put our constructors down there as part of the factory and deal with the building parts there. We are bringing 120 limestone per minute out, but this belt is only going to be able to take 60 at the time being, so we'll be able to upgrade this a little bit later. So we're also going to need power up here, and so I'm going to do the same kind of a thing. I'm going to put a power line right here, and then we're going to take power from this pole down here that has some free capacity and bring it right up here to this pole. And this is going to let us power this miner. So with that out of the way and this limestone miner spinning up to bring some limestone down to us, we're going to come down here and put the basics of a factory together. So our first step is going to be to put some foundations down on which to build our constructors. And so I'm going to go ahead and grab I think this 8x2 meter foundation, and you can see here there's a little bit of a hole, and the land raises up here as we get into the factory. And so my goal is to put this foundation somewhere that if we do begin to expand out into the rest of this area, that it's going to be high enough that we're not going to clip through the ground. And so I'm kind of just finding a good spot that I want to start placing things, and I think this is going to work pretty good. And so we're going to bring that right up here, and eventually we'll unlock walls and things like that where you can bring conveyor belts through the walls. We don't have any of that stuff unlocked just yet, so I'm just going to line this up here where we would probably bring this limestone in down the road. Now constructors are fairly large, so we're going to place a few more foundations here just to give ourselves a little bit of room to work. And what we want to do is go ahead and get our first constructor placed, and I'm going to place this constructor right in front of where the concrete is coming down, because that's going to make our lives, I think, the easiest as we go to put this together. And I'm going to put another one right next to it, because I'm pretty sure when we come in here to look, concrete is going to take 45 limestone per minute, and we're bringing 60 limestone per minute in right now. And so we're going to split our limestone between these two constructors because it'll be a little bit more optimal than just feeding one constructor for concrete. And so in order to split, we're going to come in here to logistics, and we're going to use this conveyor splitter that we unlocked last episode. And you can see here that this has a lot of arrows on it, the green arrows being the outputs from the splitter, and the yellow arrows to my right are the inputs. And so we're going to bring things into these yellow-orange arrows, and it's going to split it out to any of the blue arrows that we have. And so I'm going to line this up with our constructor, and you can see that by the blue lines extending into my constructor. And what we're going to do is take a belt here and run it right into the splitter. And then we're going to come out of the splitter into this constructor. And then we're going to run around and do the same thing on the other side into this constructor. And so now, if we set both of these up as concrete, we should be able to provide power and start creating concrete. Now, with both of these creating concrete, the last thing that we need to do is put them into a storage container of some kind. And so we're going to go ahead and go into organization, get a storage container set up here, and I'm going to just place this storage container right over here on the other side of this constructor for the time being, because we don't really need to take the concrete anywhere. We're just going to be coming and picking it up by hand. And so with that, I want to feed both of these into that storage container. So I'm going to pick up this other box that we have, which is a merger. A merger is the opposite of a splitter in that it has 3 inputs and 1 output. So I'm going to put this down right here in the middle of this platform. And then we're going to bring the concrete in from both of these and put it into this merger. Now I'm going to bring this forward just a bit and then send it in so that we don't clip through this power pole. Give us a nice 90-degree angle here. And then once we've got this concrete being merged, we can take that and put it right into this storage container. And we're now feeding limestone into this storage container from these 2 constructors. This is going to be a far superior setup to the manual limestone setup that we had over here. And so now that we have that automated, we can tear down the rest of this production facility as it's no longer necessary, and it's kind of in the way because we're going to want to start building a factory here pretty soon. So we've just grabbed all the materials we need out of our factory here to start this next milestone, which should give us everything that we need to begin building our factory. And so we're going to go ahead and launch that. The 2 next technologies that we're going to need to get are the Logistics Mark II, so we can have access to the faster belts for building our factory, as well as the Resource Sync program, which gives us the Awesome Sync where we can destroy items for tickets, and the Awesome Shop where we can spend those tickets to unlock additional, more cosmetic items. But for factory building, this is actually really important because it gives us access to different kinds of walls and power connectors and things like that. And so I'm going to go ahead and unlock this first because upgrading belts later on is really easy, but building a factory without these cosmetic items is actually really hard. And so with that activated, the pod will be back in a minute or so. We're going to go and actually create our chainsaw and clear this area up real quick. And so the chainsaw is an item that we can get over here at the equipment workshop, and it looks like we're going to need a little bit more wire and some screws. So with those resources in hand, we're able to create this chainsaw, which is going to allow us to clear all of this material out of our base area. But before we can really get into that, we need to create solid biofuel. And so now you can see we can create 132 solid biofuel. I'm going to do a little bit of this manually, and then we're going to probably set up a constructor to do the rest of this for us because this is kind of a slow manual process. This should keep us going for a little bit. We're only using 4 per minute, so we've got a few minutes before we run out of power, and we're going to bust this chainsaw out. And it's going to let us clear out all of this brush Alright, so with that all cleared out, we've got enough room to make a factory. And so we're going to come in here. We got quite a bit of biomass out of that. And so we're going to go ahead and turn this stuff into biomass. And then I think I'm going to just toss that constructor back down to build some biofuel for us in the background while we're working on putting our factory together. And so you can see just from that little bit of clearing out in our base, we've got a significant stockpile of biomass that we're going to be able to turn into solid biofuel. We'll be able to make 700 solid biofuel, which should keep our little base going for a little while here at least. And if I just check this as our primary fuel source, I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of that biofuel in here for the time being, just to make sure our power keeps running. And so we prematurely tore down this factory, it looks like. I'm going to just toss that back in place to create the biofuel while we're working on the rest of it. And we've had an incident. Our power capacity has run out here, it looks like. So I'm gonna grab some of this fuel. I think that these two burners ran out of fuel, so we're gonna go ahead and get them back up and running. Starting this back off should do it. Ooh, we are right up at capacity when we start up, so we will have to keep an eye on this. Looks like, oh, we've got 10 overhead. Never mind. All right, so we've got our resources here. Let's just go ahead and fire this thing off. And this is going to give us access to the Awesome Shop. And what the Awesome Shop is going to let us be able to do is gain access to some really cool things. We're going to put the actual Awesome Shop down right over here next to our other accessory buildings. We'll just put it right here in front of the MAM. And you can see here that there's just a ton of different organizational items, wall items where we can add doors and conveyor walls to our factories, as well as different attachments like these wall power outlets. We've got foundation enhancements so we can make things look pretty. We've even got a fix-it factory cart, etc., etc. So there's a lot of great stuff in here. You could technically use tickets to buy specific parts. I would never actually waste a ticket on this. And so the question then comes is, how do we get tickets? Well, it's pretty straightforward. We need to build this awesome sink and then literally just feed items into it. And so we're going to need a little bit more cable and honestly a lot more power. So let's go ahead and put the awesome sink and another biomass burner in our queue to make sure that we've got all the right items. And so we just need a little bit more cable here, and we're gonna go slap this down and get it going real quick. And so first we're gonna add another biomass burner back here just to keep our factory going. And I'm gonna just feed this into an existing part of the factory real quick to get us up and running. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any more biofuel on me, so I'm going to steal this and split this stack in half so that we can get both of these biofuel generators up and running. And then what we need to do is feed this awesome sink with items. And so what we're gonna do is put this awesome sink down right over here in front of our iron plate constructor. I'm gonna grab another batch of iron plates before we kick this off, just so that I have plenty. And then we're just gonna hook this up, give this thing some power, and hopefully, oh, I don't have any free power poles. Oh, there's one. Hopefully this doesn't completely shut down our power grid. It looks like it's running, and so you can see here points until next coupon is going down 6 at a time because that's how much an iron plate feeds. And so as we start making more iron plates here, we're gonna feed them out into the awesome sink, and eventually once we get 1,000 points in here, we get a coupon, and this kind of ramps up over time, so it takes more and more points to get a coupon. But we're gonna need to get, I think it's something like 9 coupons to get the things unlocked that I need to really make our factory building a little bit more efficient. But the wonderful thing here is that this can run in the background while we're doing other things, and I don't have to be too worried about it because, we've got plenty of iron plates for the time being. With that, we're going to wrap up today's episode. That's all for today. Ketterk out.